It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, and your emails at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. Public safety is on the ballot this November, or right now, because you can be voting right now. Prop 36, one of the most important issues that's going to be voted on the ballot, rolls back a whole bunch of things in Prop 47. At the same time that signatures were being gathered and Prop 36 was qualifying for the ballot, the California legislature realized that there was an uproar from the citizens that something needed to be done about public safety. So the legislature acted with the haste that they know how to work. And the year of an election, they finally put forth a package of bills that was supposed to crack down on rampant retail crime and some other public safety issues that have been affecting us since the passage of Prop 47. Rob Bonta is the Attorney General of California. Rob Bonta showed up at a press conference today unveiling a directive to every police agency in the state about the new laws that were passed in California, the laws that were supposed to be the response to Prop 36. And I got to tell you, as somebody that follows a lot of press conferences and watches a lot of Gavin press conferences and signing ceremonies, they rarely tell you when they're signing a bill what the bill does. But because we're getting real close to election season, Rob Bonta wanted to make sure that the public and the police were aware of the new laws, the new tools that they can use to go after the repeat offenders. So we're going to hear from Rob Bonta himself what he happens to think about these bills and what he happens to think about Prop 36. But of course, it's Rob Bonta we're talking about. You know, first, we got to get through all the cliches.
Oh, when it comes to statewide challenges like organized retail crime, it takes all of us to combat it. We need to work together, have each other's back, work side by side.
Work left and right, work up and down. Somebody emailed us, work up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B, start. You Contra fans know what I'm talking about there.
We agree. We are fed up as well. We have had enough with organized retail crime, and that's why we're pushing back with these laws, making sure that all the tools are in the tool belt in the toolbox, and that they can be deployed as appropriate.
He's got a tool belt and a toolbox. He is a tool.
With this announcement today, we are making it very clear that if you decide to engage in organized retail crime, if you break these laws, you will be held accountable.
Everybody's favorite word.
You will be held accountable. We will hold you accountable. We will arrest you. We will make sure that under the law, you are prosecuted pursuant to these laws. So
that's right. You take this man seriously. I don't want to see any more smash and grabs at the Nordstrom at the West Valley Mall. What's that mall called, Bonta?
In Topanga.
I think it's Topanga.
In Topanga.
Topanga. Now, let's get into the meat of this. What do the new laws do that, according to the legislature and Gavin Newsom, Bonta's not specifically saying this, but by doing this press conference, he's definitely inferring we don't need Prop 36 because the legislature already solved the problem. So let's see what they did. Are you ready? I am.
Let's get into some of these important changes. One of the
starting off strong here, Bonta.
I'll first say high level. These 10 laws address gaps that made it more difficult for law enforcement and prosecutors to bring perpetrators to justice. And so it closes those gaps.
How was those gaps created? Could it be Prop 47? Which, again, you can't blame Bonta for Prop 47. We have to blame ourselves. Even all the people that want to blame Kamala Harris, even though there is some questionable reporting as to whether she actually titled it the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, that's another story for another day. But we voted on it. We knew what it was. If you didn't read what was in the ballot and you voted for it, that's on you. If you did read it and you voted for it, that's on you. But that's okay. We all make mistakes. And now it's time to correct that behavior.
It is sensitive to the concerns and feedback that we were getting on the ground from our law enforcement, and it fills those gaps and makes the set of tools stronger. The bulletin highlights each of the 10 new tools.
Can you tell us what they are? That's all I'm asking. If you're going to hold a press conference about what the bills do, tell me what the bills do. Please. That's all I want to know. Let's say that I was blind. I can't go to the website and read your directives. Tell me what I want to hear.
The bulletin highlights each of the 10 new tools. The one that already went into effect that I alluded to earlier is the law that ensures that law enforcement has the support they need when it comes to combating cargo theft, which we've seen.
All right, we're going maritime first.
Unfortunately, on our railroads and with our in the goods movement space.
You remember when the Union Pacific was getting robbed in 2021 and 2022, and George Gascon blamed Union Pacific for not having stronger locks?
The other 9, as I mentioned, go into effect in January. They include stricter.
Wait, why was the only one that had an urgency clause cargo theft? That's interesting.
They include stricter penalties for individuals involved in organized retail schemes. There are mandated.
Although I believe the stricter penalties are if you are caught stealing $50,000 worth of merchandise. So it's quite a high bar.
There are mandated sentencing enhancements based on the amount of retail goods stolen.
If you get to that 50K, which, you know what? Not too hard to get to 50K. I mean, when they bumped off the Nordstrom on, where was it?
In Topanga.
They stole $90,000 worth of handbags.
They include enhanced felony charges where appropriate, again, based on the amount. And there's a scale and a schedule where the enhancements are triggered. We're ensuring that police...
Now, is there a way to make sure that prosecutors are filing those enhancements? Because we've had kind of a problem with that down in Los Angeles County and up in Alameda County.
We're ensuring that police who didn't witness the crime can still arrest suspects involved in these schemes when there's probable cause, when there is good indicia of reliability, a sworn witness statement, surveillance video, for example.
Now, this one, I can't believe it took us this long to get here, and I'm so glad that we are solving this loophole. But what Bonta says is true. One of the things that 47 did, of the many things that it did, was it made it so a police officer could not make a shoplifting arrest unless he witnessed it himself. Doesn't matter if you have a sworn statement from the retailer, from the employee, from someone who saw it. Doesn't matter if you have it on video. They could only cite you, only give you a ticket unless they directly witnessed it. I don't know how that became a thing, but that's one of those ridiculous absurdities that we are fixing.
We're ensuring that police who didn't witness the crime can still arrest suspects involved in these schemes when there's probable cause, when there is good indicia of reliability, a sworn witness statement, surveillance video, for example. We're ensuring that prosecutors can combine the aggregate value of stolen items to reach that threshold of $950 that exists here in California, the 10th strictest threshold in the nation.
Well, 10th strictest, kind of, except for 10 years we didn't have the aggregation, which did not make it strict at all. But yes, part of what law enforcement has been asking for is aggregation. If you are stealing from this store, then you go and steal from the next store, then the next store, those should not be individual cases. That should be all one grand theft, totaling it up. That is important. What's interesting is that's one of the things that Prop 36 will do as well. So do they overlap? I don't know.
And with that aggregation, it can allow for the prosecution of felonies as appropriate if the amount goes above $950. Of course, below $950, you can still prosecute as misdemeanors.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen. The thing with misdemeanor prosecutions for theft is it's considered a nonviolent crime. And when the jails are overcrowded because we emptied out the prisons thanks to prison realignment, then the nonviolent offender gets out immediately. There was a story. You remember the snake burglar in Riverside? Never did anything violent, but broke into 70 businesses that they had evidence for. Probably was a lot more. Pleaded guilty. Didn't spend a day in jail. Time served because they're nonviolent offenses. And that's with the district attorney that knows what they're doing.
Typically with up to 6 months in jail as a penalty. We've all also seen the videos on the news or posted on social media. Too many instances of perpetrators just brazenly ransacking retail stores, flash mob style, moving in to retail stores, removing goods up and down different parts of the state, of course, happening in other states as well.
but mostly here.
And that's why there's another provision in this set of 10 laws that specifically cracks down on smash and grabs by establishing mandatory sentencing enhancements for taking or damaging or destroying property when it goes above $50,000.
Again, that's great, and especially because the damage in property often exceeds the amount of things that were stolen. But is it up to the local electeds to enforce those enhancements? Because we have two very prominent DAs, although both of them may be gone by the time this stuff goes into effect, who are very anti-enhancement. One is this jackass.
Google on YouTube.
And the other is this jackass.
I've been bipped several times.
Good old Bippy.
There have also been really critical organized retail crime statutes that were on the verge of expiring and sunsetting, and that sunset date for those organized retail crime statutes and the attendant task forces and diversion programs.
Okay, this is just technolese. You don't need to give the press conference the time for these we're extending the time that we had for a task force. The task force will not end because the problem's not solved.
Have been removed. And so they, instead of expiring in January of 2026, they will continue to be effective and operative as we move forward into the future. We're also adding increased penalties for car break-ins and auto theft, whether the door is locked or not.
That's great. This is another nonsensical thing. And by the way, there is plenty of things that can be said about State Senator Scott Wiener from San Francisco, but a bill that he has been trying to get passed for 5 years eliminates the silliest loophole I have ever heard of. Car break-ins are very rampant in the Bay Area. They are here too, but they are especially in Oakland and San Francisco.
I've been bipped several times.
It happened to Bippy. And the way the laws worked up until this bill that, again, Scott Wiener's been trying to get passed for 5 years, which tells you that the electeds in Sacramento realize the winds are a-changing, is if you get arrested for breaking into a car, you need to have the victim in that case, the person whose car was broken into, testify under oath that they know they locked the door, despite the evidence that the car window was smashed, so obviously the car was locked. Now, why is this so complicated? For one, auto burglars specifically like to target rental cars, because rental cars are usually driven by tourists, and tourists who go to the airport, get their rental car, park at the gas station on the Hagenberger and get their car broken into, well, chances are they're not going to be in California when the trial happens. They will not be able to testify in person under oath that they know they locked the car. So you're specifically a target if you drive a rental car. In fact, rental car agencies give you all kinds of warnings to not put any valuables in your car. So that is a great thing that we're doing now. But what I cannot understand for the life of me, if Sacramento really wants to take this seriously, is why did it take Scott Wiener 5 years to get that simple fix through the legislature, through Gavin Newsom? They're taking it seriously this year. Where have they been?
And so in sum, it's for perpetrators who are looking to skirt our laws and exploit potential loopholes, those days are over. Those loopholes are closed, and this is a stronger set of laws to help combat organized retail crime.
Okay, well, he explained a couple of things that's in there and a couple of really good things, but you could definitely make the argument they don't go nearly as far as we need to when it comes to public safety, which is why there is so much support for Prop 36. And the bills that the legislature signed, they do a lot of good things, but they're not going after one of the drivers and the root causes of all the retail theft, which is the massive drug problem. And that's something that Prop 36 promises they want to do something about. We'll hear more from Bonta, but first, let's hear from Dave in Whittier. Dave, hello.
Hey, Randy. Happy Thursday. So Gavin Newsom's latest tomfoolery about Prop 36 against it is this silly comment he's made. Well, Prop 36 is an unfunded mandate. But wait a minute, Mr. Newsom. What is it that you propose anytime a bill, a proposition from the state legislature that is not funded? What a joke. And then on Prop 4, this homeless funding tax, wait a minute. The primary ballot pamphlet was an encyclopedia thick, all for Prop 1 for the homeless. So what are you asking people for homeless money for? People don't fall for it. Vote no on Prop 4, yes on Prop 36, which has 71% support now.
Now, Dave, I do have to correct you. I think Prop 4 is the climate bond, not the homeless bond. It's Measure A in L.A. County that's another homeless tax.
That's right. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. Measure A. Now, tell me, that's a Los Angeles measure, isn't it? City?
Yes, that's L.A. County. They want to take the tax that was in Measure H and double it and have it last forever.
Well, it's totally outrageous. Prop 36 will help take care of that. We don't need it. They're trying to soak you people, everybody, and vote no on Prop 5, which is going to soak property taxes more on everybody. These people are insane.
Well, they're going to try. There are special interests on every side that try to use our direct democracy to pass the craziest things because they think they can get past the voters. But hopefully the electorate is educated enough, and that's what we're trying to do here. Dave, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. Rob Bonta is explaining all the things the legislature did because they believe you don't need to give us Prop 36. You don't need it because the legislature has already handled it. Now, I should say Bonta is specifically not taking a position on this because he says he's Attorney General and that would not be ethical. Fine. But Gavin Newsom opposes 36. Both heads of the legislature oppose it. They say we don't need it because the stuff that we passed is going to do what you want better. Well, you've heard what Bonta is doing. You've heard what the legislature is doing. Are you convinced, or are you still going to vote for 36? 800-222-KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're going through Rob Bonta's press conference explaining all the bills the legislature passed to deal with retail theft, so you don't need to vote on Prop 36, although I think they all know Prop 36 is going to pass with flying colors. But luckily for Bonta, he has the perfect excuse not to take an official position on it because he says he's Attorney General, he writes the title and summary, and that wouldn't be fair. Although Ashley Zavala, who was the only person at that press conference to ask questions, she just made a fantastic point because Bonta, we'll get to the sound, tells her, I can't make a position on that. I'm Attorney General. But on Prop 3, the gay marriage bill, he took a position on that. So that's interesting. How about that? More of that delicious sound coming up. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. That's randykabc@gmail.com. I have a very, very, very difficult decision to make. Do I play you more sound of Rob Bonta, or do I take a call from Patty? That's not a difficult decision. Of course I'm going to take a call from Patty. Patty in Simi Valley. Hello.
Hey there, Randy. I'm checking in from the great city of Simi Valley. And Randy, here's the thing. There's only three things. This is a very simple election. There's three things that people got to do. And this is in order of importance. Get going. They have to get this communist out and send them back to Cuba. He needs to go. Number one thing. Number two, we need to get Donald Trump back in power, and we need to approve Prop 36. That's it.
There you go. Those are your three priorities, Patty. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's hear a little more from Rob Bonta before we get to the Q&A portion with Ashley Zavala, which she just put out a rap on KCRA3, and I'm sure we'll play it tomorrow on John's show. But the picture of Rob Bonta holding a press conference and only one reporter being there to cover it Shows you California. Thank goodness we have her.
This bulletin is just one example of our work that fits into a greater context of work that we've been doing for multiple years when it comes to organized retail crime. And just as a look back at this year, current calendar year that we're in, this year alone we've charged 22 suspects with felonies for their alleged involvement in an organized retail crime, burglary, conspiracy, and grand theft.
That's it?
Crimes carried out at cannabis retail stores. That spanned 9 different counties with over $1 million in losses. We earlier this year announced 20.
Yeah, we got to do something about that. If you wonder why pot shops get robbed all the time, it's because thanks to federal laws, they have to be cash businesses, which means they're sitting ducks. We got to do something about that. That's just silly.
We earlier this year announced 27 felony charges against 3 suspects engaged in organized retail crime and robbery. Grand theft carried out at many high-end retail stores throughout the state of California.
Oh, that's the one at the mall
in Topanga.
Never going to let that go.
Many of you.
I know he's a Northern California guy. He's from Oakland, but you should know it's not Topanga.
Many of you recall that we filed charges against a suspect for running an organized retail crime operation out of her house that targeted Ulta and Sephora, other retailers.
I do like that one. I will say, one of the things that I find personally objectionable about how easy it is to sell stolen goods is the fact that it took 10 years to close and prosecute this case where a woman was paying people to steal makeup and other beauty supplies from Ulta's and Sephora's in the San Diego area for 10 years. She would take all of that merchandise and she would sell it on a Amazon storefront called The Makeup Store for obviously discounted prices. And she was running that scheme for 10 years. And Amazon, which I know is just a platform, well, guess what? They're a platform that was profiting off the sale of stolen goods for a decade. So how do they not have any culpability in all of this? How are there not safeguards to make sure that people selling things on Amazon have the legal right that they own them? That seems like something we should really be taking a look at.
Out of her house that targeted Ulta and Sephora, other retailers.
I mean, she should go to prison, but it shouldn't be so easy to sell stolen goods online. How do we not have safeguards for that?
Impacting 21 California counties, causing an estimated loss of $8 million. Those are just examples of some of the important investigations and busts and takedowns that we've been involved in. And we're proud to have been involved in those. I know CHP has been involved in many of those as well as others. And we'll continue to investigate and prosecute organized retail crime until we put a stop to this organized criminal activity altogether.
He's going to be a tough one to listen to when he runs for governor, because when you're not doing the cliches, he is very monotonous.
So I've said before, I'll say again, organized retail crime will not be tolerated in California.
You hear that, thieves?
These laws are proof positive. The collective aggregated action of those up here, both in the governor's office and CHP and my team, are proof positive. What they're doing in LA and across the state also proof positive. We're going to protect our businesses, protect our customers, protect our workers. It's estimated that the average family will be hit with more than $500 annually in additional costs due to the impact of organized retail crime. And
so interesting. They're finally taking this seriously, even though the smash and grabs, they've started getting big in 2021. But of course, it's an election year.
Goes without saying, that is unacceptable. That is not something we can or will accept, and that's why we're pushing back so hard. California families and businesses shouldn't have to pay for the misdeeds of others. It's hard enough to cover all the costs that California families are working.
I smell a cliche coming.
To cover now. Every form of retail crime disrupts the supply chain, hurts retailers and businesses, and puts the public at risk. This bulletin will arm law enforcement.
I will say he is definitely not in the same step as Gascon, even though at one point he absolutely supported Gascon. But Gascon is straight up saying, well, the retailers can't even tell the difference between shrinkage and shoplifting. And it's not really a problem. It's more about online retail. Bonta wants to run for governor, And Bonta at least has the foresight to realize this is where the state is moving.
Law enforcement in their continued efforts to protect our communities and businesses and to hold perpetrators accountable. So as AG, we'll continue to lean in, marshal our resources, bring the full authority and weight of our office to combat and take on organized retail crime throughout the state of California. And to all those running organized schemes in California, I want you to hear us loud and clear that if you ransack our stores, if you endanger our workers and our communities, if you attack our people, we will come for you. We will use these laws. We will hold you accountable for your misdeeds, your criminal activity.
Unless you're 16, and then you'll probably get a slap on the wrist. When we come back, Rob Bonta gets grilled by the one reporter who showed up to this presser, and she happens to be the best reporter in the state of California, Ashley Zavala at KCRA3. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We've been listening to Rob Bonta's press conference about everything that the legislature did this year to combat retail theft. And, well, if you trust the legislature, even though Bonta hasn't taken a position on 36, Gavin Newsom, Robert Rivas, and Mr. Hogwash say you don't need to vote yes on 36. Ashley Zavala, the Capitol correspondent for KCRA3 Sacramento, was the only reporter in the room for that presser, which is hilarious. And she asked Bonta, what's your position on Prop 36? I'm going to try to play you her sound because they never mic the reporters. It might be tough to hear, and I'll just skip to his answer.
Mr. Attorney General, the 10 laws that you're talking about today were initially used or attempted to use as leverage by the legislature and governor to get what's now Proposition 36 off the ballot. I know you helped sponsor this legislation. Just to clarify, are you against I don't expect you to campaign here, but are you against Proposition 36 as the state's Attorney General?
All right. So Ashley Zavala asked Rob Bonta, what is your position on Prop 36?
So I'll say this. A couple of things. I'm very supportive of these 10 laws. That has been something that has been clear from my participation in the legislative process and my support of the bills publicly, as well as my attendance at a number of the press conferences announcing them and their signing. We do the title and summary at the California Department of Justice for our propositions. And it's our job and commitment to be accurate and clear and fair in our representations. So that is our focus, and because that is our role that we have, I generally have not gotten involved in any official support for or against propositions that are on the ballot. I will say,
although turns out we find out later, Bonta did take an official position on Prop 30, which is the gay marriage bill that's definitely going to pass, but that's a position.
I will say that I'm grateful and want to thank and appreciate the legislature for not waiting for a proposition to go before the people that may or may not pass to take action. Their job is to take action to solve problems for the state of California. They've done that.
We're getting into cliche territory, Bonta.
Done that with these 10 laws, so I appreciate that very much. And then for folks who are considering their position on Prop 36, I just highly suggest that you read it and understand all its repercussions, consequences, and what it does and doesn't do.
All right, then. He danced his way out of that one. When we come back, Bonta gets asked, why did it take you and the legislature so long to do anything about this? It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's continue with this press conference from California Attorney General Rob Bonta as Ashley Zavala asks why it took until the summer of 2024 for the legislature, the governor, and the attorney general to do anything on retail theft.
When you were in the legislature, though, actually the pieces of Proposition 36 were they had been proposed and attempted and for years ignored. And in fact, some of the legislation that you're rattling off today was also proposed and ignored by the legislature when you were in there.
Including Scott Wiener's car break-in loophole killer. 5 years he tried to pass that thing.
I don't know that the legislature really acted that quickly to address some of the concerns from Californians. Should have the legislature and governor maybe listen to the public on what it was they were asking for before it got to this point where we have these competing measures and Prop 36 now on the ballot.
All right. should the legislature have acted quicker?
I think what's important is that the laws are in place now. They're tools that can be used by law enforcement, and it was a major push from both houses and the governor to get them passed and signed and on the books. I think that's a real accomplishment.
Although it's funny because the legislature got so much pushback last year after the Public Safety Committee killed every single bill related to increasing penalties for fentanyl that people started paying attention to what was going on in there.
And really moved the needle when it comes to organized retail crime. When it comes to some of the things in the package, like the organized retail crime statute, that's been in place for years. Was about to sunset, thus the need to prevent it from sunsetting. So that was an act that was committed in terms of a contribution, a law that helps combat and confront organized retail crime years ago.
We established a task force, but we didn't change any of the laws.
And I think there was great support. I'll have to go back and see what my vote was, but pretty confident I supported that. At that time, I was also supportive of some of the laws that were passed that allowed for crimes that were committed across jurisdictions to be prosecuted in one case by my office. And now with the new law, it allows county district attorneys to do so with the consent of the other DAs from the other counties.
Oh, I don't like that it has consent, because if somebody's breaking into places in Orange County and LA County and San Bernardino and Gascon doesn't want to do anything about it, Orange County should be able to do something about it.
So that was done before as well. So I don't know that there were things that you can say for all of the 10 laws, maybe some, that none were addressed in the past and they're just now being addressed. I think it's a continuum where there was different contributions over time and now a sort of culmination of a broader package to get passed. So I appreciate that the package.
He's so nervous. This guy is not ready for prime time
to get passed. So I appreciate that the package is passed now. It's important now. There's no time like the present, and they will be great tools in addressing organized retail crime.
Mr. Cliche.
Will you send the same bulletin if Proposition 36 passes?
Okay, so part of the reason he held this press conference is to send a bulletin letting police agencies know, here's the new laws that you should think about. Will he do the same thing? Because 36 is about to change those laws.
Yes. Well, I mean, not the same. I'll send a bulletin that reflects the law as it stands, based on whatever is passed with Prop 36. And it'll be interesting because when it comes to the organized retail crime aspects of Prop 36, and Prop 36 has sort of two buckets of policy areas. One is organized retail crime. Another is drugs. But when it comes to organized retail crime, this package of legislation goes beyond what Prop 36 is proposing. There are some areas where there's overlap. And so with the bills in place, and if Prop 36 passes, there will be, I think, an important need to clarify what's operative, what's in play, what tools can be used, what not. And we'll be more than happy to provide that clarity given our chief law enforcement role.
Well, there you go. That's Rob Bonta at his press conference where he got asked about Prop 36. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of headlines that Bonta does not take a position on Prop 36 coming up tomorrow. In fact, right before I got on the air, and I already had seen the story on KCRA, Johnny texted me, hey, did you see this? Yes, I saw this. In fact, almost every time John texts me, hey, did you see this? I've already seen this. I've already seen everything. I spend way too much time researching local politics. But that's what I'm here to do for you. That's what we do every day together. If you ever miss an episode of this show, you can go to kabc.com/newsblitz or search for the KABC News Blitz on Apple Podcasts. Give us a follow. Share it with your friends. Tell people about this show, especially our Friday happy hour shows. I would appreciate it. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 for another News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.